Our author for the day needs no introduction, especially in the world of CAT preparation and MBA. I think anybody who's considering preparing for any of the MBA entrance exams has read at least one of the books that have been authored by Arun Sharma, and if not more. So, just to introduce him to everybody here, Arun Sharma is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore. He's also a nationally renowned trainer of CAT aspirants and the author of a series of best-selling books, which are published by McGraw-Hill on CAT and a lot of other aptitude examinations. As someone who appeared for CAT in 2013, I think I can also vouch for this from personal experience that I would not have been able to clear my cutoff for the quant section in CAT if it wasn't for Arun sir's books. So in the session today, we hope to learn a lot of tips and tricks from Arun sir. The way we would be doing it is I'll hand over the mic and the stage to Arun sir to take us through the tips that he has in mind for aspirants for both 2021 and 2022. All of you who are either preparing for the exam this year or looking at it for the longer run. We have also received questions from a lot of you over the last week. So in the last 15 minutes, we will be going through the questions. If there are any more questions that you have, please post them on the comment section and we'll try and take it up towards the end of the session. Arun sir, over to you. Thank you so much for doing this session for us and our audience.
My thanks to Archana and Amazon overall and Amazon the books division of Amazon. Obviously, we have been hand in hand over the last 10-15 years, where Amazon has been one of the major sellers of my books, etc. And I mean, I always look at it as a partnership between me and my publishers and the portals and retailers who have, if not more than me, at least equal to me, contribution in terms of building my books to where they are. And as I was, I mean, it's when you talk about a session like this and an open session like this, where actually I know the audience will be a pretty diverse audience in terms of the kind of people who will be watching this. So it's slightly difficult for me to structure exactly what I want to speak and what should I be focusing my speech on. So I thought that maybe I'll talk about a few myths about the CAT that people that people make mistakes in, and then maybe some guidance about for CAT 21 aspirants and also CAT 22 aspirants, people who are preparing for longer term in the longer term context. What are the things you should keep in mind when you're preparing over a longer term context. And of course, maybe I'll given this is normally a different format and a different portal or format on which I'm speaking. So maybe I'll also give you a sneak peek into what I do with my books and how I design my books and what happens from one edition to the other, etc. And also how you should use those books in case you're planning to use the books for your CAT prep. So generally speaking, I mean, the first misconception that I try to get people over, and this is a big one, because all across your social circle and academic circles, you'll be hearing from all people all around you that the CAT is a very tough exam. And I will both agree and disagree with that. It's tough till you don't find the keys to it. And the moment you find the key to the CAT, it becomes the simplest logic. It's just like very similar to you want to enter a house. If you don't have the key, it's very tough to enter. And you have the keys to enter the house, it becomes a very simple structure. So when you're preparing for this exam, one of the key things, one of the important aspects is if you want to simplify the exam, and it's actually a very simple exam if you actually simplify it and you understand the first principles of preparing for this exam. So if you can start simplifying it, and you can get rid of all the all the useless messages around the CAT prep circles and the CAT prep cycles, then you can actually create a very simple straight line path to preparing for this test. So the first misconception is, if there's anybody who tells you that this is a tough exam, please come back to me and refer to him to my speech here when I'm talking about the fact that it's actually a very simple exam. The reason why it's simple is the reason why it's tough. तो वो तुम लोग को पता ही है, all of you know that. You every year the best minds try to give the exam. The most brilliant minds across the country take the exam. It's a highly competitive exam. Questions are tough, very difficult to solve questions, etc. Very high quality questions, etc. That they come. But what I have seen is, and also one more aspect that people talk about is that it's an exam that keeps changing all the time, and that's something which I have actually a question mark, because what I have seen is that while the pattern keeps changing, but and specifically if you're looking at preparing for CAT from the perspective of 2-3 years, कि last 2 साल में क्या हुआ है CAT में, so you will always be surprised by this exam. But if you prepare on a 15-20 year framework, if you prepare with a mindset of, I want to prepare on a wide angle framework of a 15-20 year framework. I'll try to cover all the bases with respect to what has happened in each of the sections, each of the chapters, each of the question types over the last 15 years. You'll start realizing that your year cannot really deviate from what has happened over the last 15 years. So the mistake people make, one of the key mistakes people make, which makes CAT difficult for them, is in their preparation, is that they try to look at only 2 years or 3 years कि क्या हुआ है last 3 साल में, मैं वही करूँगा, right? But अगर वैसा करोगे preparation, तो automatically you're always going to be surprised, and there's always going to be an element of surprise, because CAT will draw from what has happened over the last 15 years and give you questions from there. So that's one reason why, I mean, how it becomes simple. The other reason you'll find it simple is that because what you'll realize when I mean, there are two broad parts of preparing for CAT. Of course, there are four question types. So you've got quants, you've got data interpretation, you've got reasoning, and you've got verbal ability and reading comprehension. And so one way you can look at your preparation process is how do you prepare for each one of these. But the other way I look at preparing is that, okay, there's one problem solving area and there's one language area. So quants, DI, and LR are all problem solving areas. So what basically they try to test you inside these question types, in each of these three sections or these two sections, DILR of course one section, is essentially a problem solving skills. They'll throw you at the deep end, they'll throw you into a question, and the questions sometimes or at times will kind of give you a new experience that you have not seen beforehand. Although you might have seen something similar, but that specific thing might not be something that you have done. So that's the difference between CAT versus other exams. Where if you're giving any other aptitude exam, most aptitude exams across the world, if you have done 200-300 questions on a topic or a chapter in quants, you would have broadly seen all the questions that come, and the questions that will actually come in your exam will be a subset of those 200-300 questions only. But CAT में क्या होता है कि वो logic use होता है, but not the same questions. So what happens is, inside the exam they throw you in the deep end with respect to your problem solving situation, with respect to checking your problem solving. And that's where I think the biggest mistake that people make in preparation, and this is something that I tell people about the way they want to use my books also. So if you look at my quants book, the data interpretation or the logical reasoning, how to prepare for these three sections, these books, if you look for all of these books, how do you solve them? How do you approach them? So my typical answer to people is that when you are solving these books, you have to have a very clear perspective or a very clear differentiation between whether you are using the process of assisted problem solving or you're using the process of self problem solving. So please understand the ability, the skill that the exam will test you for is essentially your ability to solve questions under pressure, right, on your own. So unless you have self problem solved 200 to 300 questions in every chapter, you are not going to be able to crack this exam. So that is where the biggest problem happens for most people when they prepare. The biggest mistake that they do. So what people typically do is कि they pick up my LOD1 or LOD2 of a chapter. जो क्वेश्चन बने वो बन गए, जो नहीं बने वो किसी से पूछ लेते हैं कि जाके आंसर पूछ लेते हैं किसी से. तो वैसे अगर करोगे तो तुम्हारा जो प्रिपरेशन साइकिल है वो कभी वो लूप कभी कंप्लीट नहीं होता है. Because कोई भी चैप्टर को when you want to turn it around, suppose you want to turn around your skills at time, speed, distance. Suppose you want to turn your skills around at solving games and tournaments, question and reasoning. So what happens is it requires a certain number of sets or some certain number of questions that you have to solve on your own, that you have to solve with your own mind, where there's nobody interfering in your thinking or nobody helping you. By interfering, it also means nobody helping you in your thinking, but you're doing it yourself. So that's one of the key factors. And unfortunately, what happens is people do a lot of problems. I mean, for me, in my thought process, a chapter like time, speed, distance does not require more than 300 to 400 questions on a self problem solving mode. What I see a lot of people doing is across the country, they do 1,000, 800, 1,200 questions on time, speed, distance, but the self problem solved is maybe 200, and 800 to 1,000 questions they are watching in videos or they are reading solutions. So please understand one thing: reading solutions or watching videos say you are not prepared to solve the question inside the exam, because no matter how much you prepare for CAT, the CAT exam will always throw you in at the deep end. So when it throws you at the deep end, and puts you in a situation which you have not faced before, or some twist inside the question, at that point you have to go back to your mind and ask it कि इसको कैसे tackle करना है. There's a doubt in your mind, there's a doubt running in your mind, and you have to ask your mind, how do I tackle this? And when your mind, so this doubt resolution mechanism, if it's there in your mind, you'll be able to cross over and get to the answer. If the doubt resolution mechanism is not there in your mind because you have habitually gone to assisted problem solve नहीं हो रहा है, किसी से पूछ लेते हैं, कोई टीचर से पूछ लेते हैं, किसी दोस्त से पूछ लेते हैं, I ask some friend of mine. So that when you prepare that way, you never set up that doubt resolution mechanism inside the mind. And you'll see all the toppers, when they solve the CAT, they have a lot of doubts. Every second question, they have doubts. What should I do with this statement? How should I tackle this statement? And they are good at it. They are able to score those scores which you require. I hope you know that in a 228 mark paper, if you look at the CAT 20 pattern, 228 marks paper, 100 marks was required to score a 99 percentile. That means only 2,000 people out of 2 lakh people approximately. So basically only 1% people were able to score more than 44% marks in the exam. So and if you actually look at the questions in hindsight, you'll find that it is actually very easy to score 45, 50, 60% marks also in the CAT, because it's like 3 marks per question. 100 marks lana hai tumko, or 200, 220 marks. If you can score 100 plus, you are done. Is the number of questions is reducing, as you must have heard. IIM Ahmedabad is conducting the paper. So if the questions are reducing, the percentage score required will be slightly higher. It might go to 48, 50% approximately. So whatever the question numbers are. So those of you giving CAT 21, just remember that your target should be to score 50%. So make sure that जिस भी chapter में तुमको दिक्कत हो रहा है solving में, I mean, you have to get after it, and you have to get after 50, 100, 150 questions on that topic and finish that off on your own. So there is, I mean, ठीक है, when you're learning the topic, when you're studying the topic for the first time, you're not remember the topic, or you have not done maths for a long time, and you are studying that topic for the on your own for the first time. So at that time, if you're taking assistance while studying, that's fine. But then there has to be that element towards the end of every topic, every chapter, where you say, okay, now the last 200 questions of this chapter of this topic, I'm doing under self problem solving mode. So make sure that self problem solving becomes your go-to approach when you're talking about developing your skills and your score in this exam, because this is not an exam based on memory. ये क्वेश्चन किसी ने मेरे को बता दिया तो मेरे को याद हो गया. It's not like a history exam. कि हिस्ट्री में इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर किसी ने बता दिया तो मैंने याद कर लिया. Somebody told me the answer to a question, and I have memorized it, I've memorized the point, so I can just go out and vomit it in the exam. Aptitude exams don't work that way, right? So there'll always be a newness element in every question. So you have to make sure that you have equipped your mind not just with the ability, but also the belief. अगर तुम हमेशा, if you're always running to somebody else for your solutions, you will never get your belief. So when you are solving my books, the my advice to all students is you take a core decision कि when you're solving your books, are you solving those under assisted problem solving mode or self problem solving mode? If my books are under assisted problem solving mode, then what are the resources you're solving under self problem solving mode? You have to define it on day one before you start your preparation. So you have to define those on every question type, on every topic. You have to try to do that. The quants book, of course, as you know, is divided into LOD1, LOD2, and LOD3. So LOD3 जो chapter, a lot of people ask me this question also, कि LOD3 किस chapters में, which chapter should I do and which chapters I can skip. So if you were to ask me, there are 12 chapters in the ninth edition. There are 12 chapters in which there are LOD3. So I would think compulsorily 6 chapters should be done, the LOD3. These are the chapters of averages, ratio proportion. This is from the arithmetic area. The chapters of number systems and progressions from block 1, and the chapters of functions and equations. So 6 chapters you should compulsorily do LOD3. Otherwise, the other chapters you can just do LOD1 and 2. And then, of course, I hope you know that this year McGraw-Hill and us, we introduced the full marks testing platform. So with my book, and this is, I think, I mean, if I'm not sure whether this is true or not, but we actually claiming it to be the one of the few books, at least, definitely first tank in I don't know that, but definitely is one of the few books in India which comes with, or a few series of books in India which comes with integrated testing platform which allows you to take mock tests, etc. And through the mock tests, what it also gives me an option of is, otherwise earlier what used to happen was the books would become static, because once I've published the book, then before I go to the next edition I could not change it. Now with the mock test, I can always, because it's digital, I can always upload a couple of mock tests going forward as you're using the books, etc., and give you more content to actually prepare and do it. So bottom line वही है कि तुमको where I mean, if you're using the book for assisted problem solving, then find out where you're going to do the self problem solving, which will finally convert your belief and this thing. And if you're using it partially for assisted and partially for self problem solving, I can guarantee you this much: the way I write my books, all the logics that you'll see in each of the chapters will get covered, and each of the question types in data interpretation and logical reasoning will actually get covered inside those books. Right? Verbal, of course, is slightly different. Verbal preparation is about language improvement. If your language is fine, then you have to focus on whether you are understanding the idea of the passage properly, because when you go wrong in a verbal question, you either have misinterpreted the idea, or you have misinterpreted the question, or you misinterpreted the option. Three ways in which you go wrong. So you have to try to see patterns about in verbal when you're talking about verbal. So in verbal, of course, the whole cycle of preparation becomes a little bit different. From it's not so much about practice as it is about generally developing your ability to get ideas from the passage or from the paragraph that's in front of you into your mind. So the book will of course help you with developing your vocabulary, and the verbal book that we have been with Meenakshi Upadhyay, those would help you develop your vocabulary and then develop your language, and then give you practice at various levels of difficulty in each of the question types for CAT as well as non-CAT exams. So that's the basic structure of what we do inside the books. And as I said, the full marks this thing test edition, it's there in the DI book, the 6th edition, the 7th edition of the DI book, the 6th edition of the LR book, and the 9th edition of the Quant book, which was published this year. So they're all there. Each of those books has the full marks mock test, so you can actually use a scratch code to take a test to see where your preparation has reached. And bottom line, tum log ko, I mean, basically, see, I often ask one final perspective I want to give. When people ask me, and when I tell people that CAT is an easy exam or a tough exam, people roll their eyes कि आप easy कैसे बोल रहे हैं, तो बहुत tough exam है. So I ask them this question: कि how many marks do you think you can get? what percentile do you think is easy to get? There's some percentile in CAT which is easy to get. So people tell me, some people say 90 is easy, but 99 is very tough. Some people say 80 is easy, but 99 is very tough, or whatever. So have you ever realized the fact that if you're scoring 90 percentile, you think 90 percentile is easy and 99 is tough. So if you think that you can score 90 percentile, you will be eventually scoring around 60 marks in a 2-hour paper. And if you want to score 99 percentile, you have to score 100 marks in a 2-hour paper. So it's just a matter of 40 marks extra. You don't have to go from 0 to 100. You have to go from 60 to 100. If you're already standing on 60 or 90 percentile, scoring 40 marks extra means 10 to 12 marks each section. Please remember, this is not a 1 mark per question exam. It's a 3 mark per question exam. So to get 40 marks extra, you just need 12, 13 questions extra. If you can do 13, 14 questions extra, 4 questions in every section extra. If you're doing 16, 12 questions in quants, start doing 16 questions in quants, and you are 1/3 your journey from 90 to 99 is done. So I often ask this question to people when they tell me that this is a tough exam. I ask them, what percentile do you think is tough? When they tell me 99, and then I say, what do you think is easy? What percentile do you think you can do easily? And then they tell me 90 or 85. So I show them that gap between the marks for 90 and the marks for 99, and then I ask them this question: if you can solve 12 questions in quants, why can't you solve 16 after a year of preparation? And if you modify the process and you reduce the dependence on others while you're doing a problem solving, you will see that you will start succeeding, right? So that's the basic gist of what I wanted to talk about. And we're free to take questions. This thing, of course, timelines you'll have to manage if you're in CAT 21 preparation, and typically a preparation will mean going back to an individual chapter 3-4 times, individual question type 3-4 times in reasoning. It's not your plan should include you go to the chapter, then after a month you come back to the chapter, after 2 months you come back to the chapter again. So if you're going for CAT 22, plan at least 4 visits on every chapter between now to CAT 22. By a visit, I mean you're spending 3-4 days on that chapter and you're only focusing on problems of that chapter, of that question type. Right. So we are open to questions. I think that we have received some questions here, which I would love to answer now.
Um, yes. So, sorry. So, first of all, thanks, Arun sir, for all the inputs. I think the one thing that stands out to me is it's not only about ability, it's also about belief.
Yeah.
And I can completely relate to the question of 90 percentile versus 99. I think there is something about that number, 99.x, which tends to scare people off.
Yeah, but I mean, why can't you? If you can score 60 marks, why can't you score 100 marks?
Yes. So when you gave that example, I think a lot of us don't think of it intuitively that way. We are just getting demotivated by the 99.x number. Essentially, what you said, which is 12 questions in total, in absolute doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, if we can do so much, we can just do that extra mile.
Yeah,
So
and
yes,
it's
we do
just
have.
tightening your processes. If you tighten your
Yes.
processes, everything, these things will happen automatically. You don't need to do much.
Yes, sure. So yes, we do have a couple of questions that we had taken from the audience members beforehand. So the first question I have, which I also think is relevant for a lot of applicants, is how do I crack CAT along with my job?
Right. So see, the simple reaction to that is that if you are in a job, then obviously the time that you've got is limited,
Hmm.
right? So first of all,
Sure.
then you have to lengthen the timeline in which you're preparing. I guess that's the easiest way to handle it. So rather
Okay.
than trying to prepare it, I mean, there are two kinds of people there again. One is people, if you think you need a lot of basic work,
Hmm.
versus there are some people who will just hit the test and do well in the test and score through. So, for
Hmm.
example, I was that kind of person, so I didn't have to study much for CAT when I was giving my
Okay.
first attempt. So it was just a
Okay.
matter of taking enough tests, and I had to find a time to take the mock tests, etc. But
Okay.
so what will happen is your preparation, in case your mock test scores get plateaued at, suppose, as I was saying, 60 or 100 game in
Hmm.
the current
Hmm.
pattern, whether you're getting 60 marks or you're getting 100 marks. in the exam. So that's the difference between a 90 and 99, and 80 will be at around 45, 50 marks. So the
Okay.
point is that if, when you start you taking a mock test, if your scores get stuck at around 70, 75, 80, then identifying what to do. CAT is not about so much about number of hours of preparation. It's about, can you find the right thing to do and work on it and come back to the exams and score better. So, for example, let's
Okay.
say you are underperforming in logical reasoning, right? And you identify that. So, what does it take to sort out logical reasoning? So, what it takes to sort out logical reasoning, if I sit today and solve 100 sets of questions on logical reasoning, and I do it in 1 week to 10 days time, 10 days later, my logical reasoning problem solving skills will be better than it was today,
Okay.
and will reflect in my scores automatically.
Hmm.
So if I could be working, I could not be working. वो 10 दिन का काम मैं तो निकाल ही सकता हूँ, right?
Yeah.
And when you tell yourself I have to prepare, I have to come back at 8 o'clock in the night, and I have to prepare for I have to sit for 5 hours after that to study for infinite time of 1 year, then your mind will not react, will not give you the motivation to do it. But can you do it
Got
for
it.
10 days or not? Can you push yourself for 10 days and do what it takes to raise your score? It's as simple as that. Think of it like a problem solving situation. I'm scoring 60s. I have got resources, my intelligence, my time, my hard work, and the study material, etc., that I'm using. This is my resources, and my challenge is to catapult to 100, 110, 120. So if you can solve
Got
that
it.
problem, it does not necessarily require 2 years of work to go from 60 to 100. It is just maybe
Got
solving
it.
those two questions extra, not making those two silly errors, tightening up on your calculations. So those are things. And the other tip for people who are working is that try to use those gap times that you have. What happens is we try to look for those 3 hour, 4 hour study sessions on a daily basis. कि जब तक वो 3 घंटा बैठ के कुछ नहीं करूंगा तब तक fructify नहीं होगा.
नहीं होगा.
Not that kind of exam. CAT preparation can
Fair.
happen. You're having dinner, you're having lunch in your office canteen, and you've got 10 minutes spare. So you, in your mind, while you're eating your food, you're doing some calculations, or you're on your phone, you're reading an article. That's also very very intense CAT preparation, right? So
Yes.
don't try to
Yeah.
look for the 4 hour sessions always, right? So
Got it.
of course you need some of them, but then you also have these shorter time frames. You can have a 5 minute intense CAT preparation session also, as far as you're
Got it.
doing the right stuff there. So you just need to understand what are the things you need to fill that time with,
Got it. So
right?
I think effectively it's about prioritizing efficiency over duration, like you had
Yeah.
mentioned even in
और वो
your
बहुत
talk that
मतलब वो हिंदी में जो बोलते हैं ना, बहुत घिसने वाला एग्जाम नहीं है. इज नॉट एन
correct.
एग्जाम इन विच मैंने ज्यादा घिसा
It's
तो
a
मेरे को ज्यादा नंबर आएंगे. वैसा नहीं होता है इसमें. इट इज नॉट लाइक
got
दैट,
it. Got
right?
it.
It is more for intelligent work, smart work,
Yes.
right? Smart work basically means understanding, identifying what do you need to do it, what specifically
Huh.
you need to push on, and do that
Huh.
work and reap the rewards.
Got it. I think this 5 minute session thing is a very relevant input for a lot of people who are working, right? I mean, like you also mentioned, reading comprehension is a lot about your command over the language. So if you can actually go through a rich and relevant article in 5-7 minutes during lunch, you
Yeah,
are putting in a lot of inputs into how you're preparing for the exam.
exactly.
Got it.
In fact, I'll give you a small anecdote. There's a student of
Hmm.
mine who in a similar live this thing class. He told me he was from Bihar, and he made this statement कि सर मेरे से रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन होता ही नहीं है. मेरे को पैसे समझ में ही नहीं आता. मैं कितना भी करूं मेरे को समझ में नहीं आता है. So I asked him this question कि okay, I'll give you a scenario. I say that scenario is that there's a gun on your head, and I've given you a passage to understand. Either you understand it or I'm going to shoot you. So will you get killed, or will you understand? Will you be able to understand the passage? So he himself understood the futility of what he was saying, and he started smiling. He said, "Okay, I'll understand the passage." So that means you're not giving enough. You're not giving it all you've got.
The intent.
So yeah. So even if you're giving it for 5 minutes, even if you're doing it for 5-10 minutes, put in everything you've got in that time. That's very important, because
Got
outcomes
it.
tabhi aata hai. In life, you get outcomes
Yes.
only when you give it all.
Yes. Absolutely true. Um, Sure. Now, the next question that we have has a lot to do with what you just covered about the outcome and the intent. So I'll also translate the question after reading it out. So it's मन की स्थिरता कैसे लाएं अपने अंदर when we are actually giving the exam. For just for the benefit of the audience, how do you get a certain sense of stability and calmness in your thought process, especially within the exam center? That seems to be a recurring pattern of question that we've had from people.
Don't allow your mind to wander towards the result. That's my answer to that. If your
Okay.
mind starts wandering towards the result, yeah, I'm doing this step and I'm thinking what will happen, then you can't, it won't work. I mean, if you watch tennis or any sport, the moment a batsman or a player or a tennis player starts thinking ki, this is how I lift the trophy and this is what happens if I don't lift the trophy, then his next shot goes wrong, right? So it's one shot
Yes.
at a time. You take one ball at a time. So similarly, you want to win a cricket match of 20 cricket match, you have to win 240 balls, right? 120 balls which you're bowling and 120 balls which you're facing. If you win each of these 240 balls, or you win a majority of these 240 balls, you'll win the match. You'll have to be really unlucky
Yes.
not to win. So similarly,
Yes.
inside the cat, you'll have 25 opportunities in every section to either win or lose. There are 25 balls. So live one ball at a time. Don't allow your mind to wander in the future. Ki how will I raise my bat to the audience once I make my 100, right? Or
Fair.
don't think the opposite also. Don't allow the crap of failure to overwhelm you at that time. So just do it one step at a time. Enjoy the journey. Happiness is always there in the journey. It's never in the destination.
Yes. I think that
I'm
along
quite sure
with being
you
relevant.
realize that when I was preparing, I'm quite sure you are from Ahmedabad, so you know that also. And when you are preparing, your thought was कि I'm पहुंच जाएंगे तो उसके बाद life बन जाएगी. But then when you reach
Yes.
there, you realize कि ऐसा नहीं है. Life starts there, and then
Yes.
it's just that the goalposts have changed, and now you think about the next steps and the next challenges. So the
Yes.
journey always continues.
Yes.
There's never an
Yes.
end point.
Yes, I think a point that you had also mentioned during the conversation was it's about essentially about problem solving. The exam is unlike what we study in history, for example. This is about problem solving, which is why the concepts, the realm of the concepts don't change.
Yeah,
I
and
think that is also
why I emphasize so much on assisted problem solving versus self problem solving. Most aspirants you look at, they are going after doubts. Ki mere ko somebody tells me how to solve this question, etc. And I always tell people that, do you think when I solve the cat, do you think I have doubts in my mind or not? So every second question I have doubts. Because you are thrown
yeah.
in new problem solving situations, you have
Hmm.
to have doubts. What is this statement meaning in a reasoning question? What is
Hmm.
this clue meaning? How do I use it? What picture should I draw for this? You always have doubts, and the only thing that is there in the exam with you is your own doubt resolution mechanism. And
Yes.
if you're not allowed
Yes.
to build, if you're not allowed to build because every time you had a doubt in your preparation, you went to somebody, so
Hmm.
then you don't stand a chance. You'll be one of those millions of 80 percentilers. Always. You can give cat for five
Yes.
times. It won't happen for you.
Yep. That is true. And I
And
think
that's
problem solving is
uh, yeah,
sorry, no, I
that's where
was
the
saying problems. Sorry, please go on.
that's where the cat is difficult comes in. People who prepare that
Yes.
for 4 years don't get through, and then
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
spread the word around that cat is a tough exam.
Yes.
So you were saying something.
True. No, I was just saying the part that you mentioned about problem solving is also what a lot of the management institutes are trying to inculcate in the students that come in, right? Because in a lot of your corporate career, it's primarily going to be
It's going to be
solving
problem.
problems.
Yeah, obviously you're going to be hired for that. Nobody will pay you 50 lakh rupees a year
Yes.
to warm the bench. They'll want you to come
Yes.
and solve problems for them.
Yes. And I
Bench
think
warmers,
that's why the intent.
bench warmers you'll get at 5 lakh rupees a year. Why should you pay 15 lakh for bench warmers?
Yes.
कोई पागल थोड़ी है.
Yes. Sure. Fair. So I think the next question that we have, and which is also a question I had some time back, is how do you make arithmetic easy? is like you mentioned. I think the one takeaway that I got from the session is there is no shortcut to solving a certain number of questions. If to understand a topic, you have to do 150 to 200 sets of questions. But for someone who inherently finds mathematics difficult, is there something that they can do to make it more enjoyable or more easy for themselves?
What happens in mathematics is that questions have different difficulty levels, and the difficulty levels vary based on. I mean, I talk about. I mean, one is of course from the question side, but the other way you can look at difficulty level of question is what does it make you do, right? So some questions, what they make you do is that I'm telling you this, you do that, right? So if you, it's I call those questions obeying instructions. So some questions just make you obey instructions. So if you obey the instructions, you'll get through. So if I tell you that the average of 10 numbers is 15, so the instruction is very obvious that the total is 150. That's the only derived variable that is coming out of that statement. And you can that statement 100 years from today will also mean the same thing. And 300 years ago, it meant the same thing. So if you don't know what to do with it, that means you don't have the obeying instructions code for that chapter. So if you're faltering at that level of questions and you're not able to solve the questions, your first focus should be, okay, I should first catch hold of all the instructions and what they mean in this chapter. And that does not come in the concepts, that comes through problem solving only. So you start breaking down the question and, okay, I can't solve this question. So what can't I solve? Is this statement that is causing a problem or that which is causing a problem? And maths ka sabse, I mean, there are again hundreds of reasons why people will tell you that better than me why maths is tough. But I can tell you why maths is easy. Why maths is easy is because in maths, anything you have to learn only once in life. You don't have to learn it a second time. 2 plus 2, how many times did you learn in life? Anybody? So once you know it, you know the code throughout your life, right? Unfortunately, it's a badly communicated subject through school, which is why a lot of people don't understand it. But the moment the communication becomes better, you start realizing that it's actually not that difficult. So what students should do is first, I mean, rather than trying to, I mean, the opposite of questions which require only obeying instructions are questions which require you to think or create a thought of your own inside the question and solve that question. So I call that self-generated thoughts. So that's the opposite. So somebody who's very poor at obeying instructions on a topic, if he is trying to solve questions which require self-generated thoughts, so it's way out of his league. So he should first focus on the set of questions where if he just obeys instructions, he should be able to get through to the answers. So his first layer of questions should be there. Do not bother about those questions which are seeming difficult to start with. You come back to the chapter after a couple of months. Just like money compounds in a bank, similarly, knowledge in your mind compounds. So when you take instructions in about a topic, you do it for 3 to 5 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, and then you don't do anything about it. Just leave it in your mind. What will happen is those thoughts will start becoming your own thoughts, and they'll start mutating and becoming stronger. So a couple of months down the line, when you come back to the same topic, these thoughts are already embedded inside, and now your ground is fertile to think the next things. So you'll start realizing that things you could not do the first time, you're able to do it second time. Which is why I said to CAT 22 people, they should plan to come back to every topic 4 times during the year.
Got it. Got it. They become a part of the way you're thinking or the way you're approaching something.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And that's a change that takes time.
Yeah.
Sure. So,
yeah.
Yes. Sorry. So we just have the last question left now, and this is a little different from everything that we've discussed till now, and it has more to do with the steps that come after CAT. So a little bit about the interview process. Are there any tips for someone who is probably facing interviews for the first time, especially in the management realm of things? Are there any primary tips that you would want to share with aspirants for that?
Yeah, so think both in terms of do a critical evaluation of your current profile, because 80-90% of your questions in the interviews are going to come from your profile. And also plan a profile upgradation over a period of 6 months to 1. If you got an interview after 6 months to 8 months to 12 months, CAT 22 aspirants have their interview after 15, 17 months now. from this point.
Hmm.
And CAT
Yes.
21 applicants have interviews after 5 months, February, March, right? So try to think
Yes.
about how you can change the soft part. You can't change the hardware of your profile. You can't change the college you
Yes.
went to. You cannot change your 10 percentage. You cannot change your 12 percentage. But there are a lot of
Hmm.
softwares in your profile. So the software, by software I mean things that you can modify in the next 6 months also. For example, what are your
Okay.
passions? What are your interests? What do you
Hmm.
like to read? So if you modify those, so what happens is it
Hmm.
changes the quality of questions that are being asked. And
Got it.
from your profile, because you expects a little bit more from you, he'll generally be motivated to give you more marks
Got it.
than
Got it.
if from your profile he's not very impressed with it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
So,
a lot of people, what they do is they think about interview preparation only in the last 15-20 days. Instead of that, you
huh.
should think about at least for 6 months to a year, and your interview
Okay.
preparation should be parallel to your preparation for quants and DI and LR.
Got it. Got it. So I think a very pertinent question from one of the audience members, right? Because this is, like you said, this is not something that can change instantly. And in 45 minutes to an hour, when people are interviewing you, the more you have to talk about yourself, and the more interesting the conversation can become, the
Yeah.
better it is actually going to end up being.
Imagine two people, one who come to an interview room, and both of them ask the same question: "What are your hobbies?" And one of them says,
Hmm.
"Watching cricket is my hobby," and the other guy says,
Hmm.
"Reading about great personalities from history is my hobby." What impression do the two
Yes.
people give you immediately,
Yes.
right? So obviously,
Yep.
and if you can back up that kind of statement with actually having researched 50 different personalities over the last 2000
Yes.
years, and your interview can
Hmm.
go to that. So
Yes.
the
I think that in itself
whole
will be
conversation
enough for a 45-minute. Yes.
exactly, the whole conversation changes. You have to, I mean,
Yes.
inside the interview, you have to exhibit some spark which the interviewer sees,
Hmm.
and you have to create that spark, even if you don't have it on your 10th class mark sheet or your 12th class mark sheet. You can create it
Hmm.
in
Yes.
in your next 6 months.
Yes. I think an also important takeaway from all of this for CAT preparation for interviews is that it's not a closed conversation.
Yeah.
ऐसा नहीं है कि whatever you've done in the past is all that is going to determine what happens to you with CAT and for MBA entrance. Given the right amount of time and effort and prioritization, you can, like, even if your profile right now is not what you think is ideal for CAT, you will probably be able to create it into something that helps you have a good conversation even in the interviews. Um, Great. So that was it from the questions also that we had from the audience. Thank you so much for such a great session. And I think even after so many years of giving CAT, I take in a lot of inputs from this, especially the entire bit about how your thought process impacts a lot of what you do. Thank you so much for the session. Thank you so much, all the listeners, for tuning in. You can check out all the latest edition of Cat Books by Arun Sharma on Amazon India's website and on the app. I hope you have a good weekend going ahead, and for all the applicants, all the best. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much.